Welcome to Orthodox Family Life. We're live today for our very last live stream of the year. So thanks for being here. And we'll go over some announcements and updates. Then we'll move into some thoughts around Christmas, celebrating Christmas, and one activity I'd like to go over with you, the Tree of Jesse for kids. And then we'll end with talking about gifts for spouses, which was a really fun conversation I had with a friend, two friends, just yesterday. So I thought I'd share that with you. So while we're waiting for people to jump in, I think I'll start with some announcement type stuff, but a little bit more than announcements. And if you're here, please let me know in the chat so I can say hi to you. So, it's been 1 year since I started this channel. I didn't actually post anything until February, but I started working in December of last year. And this idea for a channel had been on my mind for quite a while. And I don't know if I've ever shared this, but the reason why I finally took the leap was because I was giving a talk at a homeschool conference. I think it's the talk on, hi, Eastern Orthodox Short Readings. Nice to see you. I was giving a talk on hobbies and skilled labor for teens and how important that is for them for a variety of reasons, which I think is on my channel somewhere. And the schedule got a little off for that homeschool conference. And so it ended up the time slot that my talk was in, amongst other talks, was cut short. Hey, Rip, good morning. So I ended up having to abbreviate that talk, which I kind of put a lot of effort into. And, these things happen at conferences. It's not a big deal. But I thought, okay, well, I put in all this time for this talk. And then, only the 20 people in the room heard it, and they only heard an abbreviated talk. So why don't I just put this online and then, it can be there to help people. So after that conference, it took me still about 2 years to finally take the leap and start this channel. So it's been a long time in the making. I've had a lot of people telling me I should be doing this, and so this next month I think is really one full year of doing it, and I've learned a lot. So so I think now that enough people are here, let's get into the main topic, and then we'll come back to kind of channel updates and where the channel's headed and some new series that I hope to offer this coming year. So I hope you guys caught Orthodox Ethos last night. They did a really wonderful stream on um, the myths around Christmas. And I'm always really happy when Father Peter does these deep dives into subjects. It's not what I do on my channel. I can kind of tell you the short things like, yes, the star was actually the Archangel Gabriel, but I can't ever really cite why I know that. I know that, but I don't remember how I know it or where to find that information. So Father Peter has the strength of being able to really research these things and show you exactly where they come from. So it was a lot of information, as always, from Orthodox Ethos, but really good stuff. But I wanted to point out one thing Father Peter said that I really appreciated, which was I think it was the discussion around Christmas trees. And he was saying some Orthodox people say you shouldn't have one at all. Some were saying it's okay. And he talked about with some of these things, there's not a black and white answer. And it's more about the disposition of your heart, right? Are you, maybe do you have a pink Christmas tree that's full of like ornaments of, you know, pizza and hot dogs and little chihuahuas and, just random things from the world, right? Or are you using this as an expression of celebrating the feast itself, right? Celebrating that the eternal logos became incarnate for our salvation. And so yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, Rip, I would definitely highly recommend it. You might want to be able to see it and not just listen, because he, as always, offers a lot of, imagery with the icons and things that are important. So it was a great conversation over there, but I really appreciated this. And I think this is really the point that I try to drive home with the talks I've done already on the Nativity, is that, the celebrating and the kind of the trimmings, let's say, are fine as long as they don't take over. And I think that's the guiding principle that I always try to use. We always want to keep Christ central through our services, through the fasting, right, through prayer, through forgiveness and repentance. But but as long as you can do the decorating and some of the extra things, as long as it doesn't take over. So I hope that makes sense. But I just really wanted to point that out. It was a great talk. I didn't actually get to finish the whole thing because it was just last night, but I'm definitely going back to listen. I know he goes into the ever virginity of the Theotokos. He goes into the place of Joseph, certain icons about the Holy Family that are inappropriate. I think he went into, is Christmas pagan, right? We get this also with Pascha from a lot of people. So lots of great information. So I think you can easily find it, Orthodox Ethos. I think it was called A Very Merry Christmas. And so today I wanted to talk about the services of Christmas themselves. What can you expect? I know a lot of you are new to the church, or maybe you don't have a church nearby that you can go to. When we celebrate these giant feasts, whether it's Christmas or Pascha, there's often a lot of services, not as many as at Pascha, but the last 3 days of the fast of Christmas mimic the last 3 days of Holy Friday, Holy Saturday, and Pascha. And what you'll see in the structure of the services is that they're often the same. Now, Pascha, of course, is always on Sunday, and Christmas moves. Christmas can be any day of the week. So there are some variances with depending on which day Christmas lands on. So the schedule does change a little bit, but usually it's the same, right? So on, let's see, 2 days before Christmas, so the eve of Christmas Eve, we could say, we have what's called the royal hours. And of course, we have the hours for every day of the week that you could read. This would be the first hour, third hour, sixth hour, ninth hour. And these correspond to different, they usually, in the daily cycle, they usually point towards one thing that happens. So the ninth hour would be the nailing of the Lord on the cross and his death. And so they each kind of have a theme. And then after that would come Vespers, Compline, Matins, and then if you're having liturgy. So that cycle repeats itself every day. But on Holy Friday and 2 days before Christmas, we have the royal hours. So these are much bigger, much longer. There's lots of Old Testament readings that point to our Lord. And whichever feast we're celebrating, these Old Testament prophecies and typologies, point to him. Very, very beautiful. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you don't have a Christmas service book, you need to get one. Now, I actually only know of one, and I'll show it to you now. It's from the OCA. And there is going to be a lot of variance with the way the feasts are celebrated according to your jurisdiction. But if you're in a Greek or Byzantine church, you can find the service at the digital chant stand. You can just go to the Greek Archdiocese website or Google digital chant stand, and there you will see all or most of the hymns for every day of the year, and they compile them according to that year. And so this year Christmas is Wednesday, I believe. Excuse me. And so the services are built slightly different than if Christmas were on Sunday. So the digital chant stand is for particularly this year. So that's really helpful, and it's a great thing to look up if you can't get to church. Or can't get to all of the services, or if you want to read it before you go, that's another great way to prepare for the services. And so 2 days before, we would have these royal hours. The following day, we would usually have a vesperal liturgy, which in many places is served in the evening. And so you would, of course, fast before that, as always. And depending on what time it is, there's, different priests have different fasting rules, different traditions do with that. So check with your local priest about that. But it is a combination of Vespers and Divine Liturgy. This would be the Liturgy of St. Basil the Great. So that would be Christmas Eve. That's the main service of Christmas Eve. And then the following day, you would have, on Christmas morning, usually, Divine Liturgy. Hey, good morning, Denise. Glad you caught us live. Now, because in America, we have this American tradition of opening gifts on Christmas morning, churches will move these services around. Sometimes they will put that vesperal liturgy very early on Christmas Eve, and then in the evening of Christmas Eve, celebrate a midnight liturgy. So you need to, again, check with your local parish, make sure you understand when the services are happening and what you're doing. Hey, Sammy, nice to see you again. Um, so this might all be, if you've been in the church for a while, I give out a lot of really, really basic information. So, and Alexander's here. Great. Nice to see you. Someone from the Spooniverse, as we say. And so this might be boring if you've been in the church for a while, but I like to say the things that maybe some of the new people don't know. And so because we tend to open gifts on Christmas morning, they will sometimes move that vesperal liturgy early on Christmas Eve and then have a midnight service. So just check locally. But the services will be the same no matter the particular time that your parish celebrates them. So I wanted to read to you this one of the most beautiful hymns of the church and show you another way in which the services of Christmas in the last 3 days and the services of Pascha mirror each other. I think Pascha would probably be the older one, but this would be from the ninth hour, and this is a very dramatic song. So I'll read the whole thing in for the Nativity, and then I'm going to go back and read it line by line, Nativity and Holy Friday, for you to see the connection line by line. It's very beautiful. Today, he who holds the whole of creation in his hand is born of a virgin. He whose essence none can touch is bound in swaddling clothes as a mortal man. God, who in the beginning fashioned the heavens, lies in a manger. He who rained manna on his people in the wilderness is fed on milk from his mother's breast. The bridegroom of the church summons the wise men. The Son of the Virgin accepts their gifts. We worship thy birth, O Christ. Show us also thy holy theophany. And again, as we have said before, Christmas and theophany are joined together. And the 12 days of Christmas is actually from Christmas to theophany, or some people know it as Epiphany. So this hymn is incredible. It shows all of the, or many of the paradoxes that we love, right? That the king of creation is lying in his mother's arms. None of this makes sense according to rational knowledge, right? And we have a similar hymn, which, if it's possible, is actually more beautiful. And so I'm going to read line by line, first Christmas and then the Pascha one, or Holy Friday. Today, he who holds the whole of creation in his hand is born of a virgin. Today is hung upon the cross he who suspended the earth amidst the waters. He whose essence none can touch is bound in swaddling clothes as a mortal man. A crown of thorns crowns him who is king of the angels. God, who in the beginning fashioned the heavens, lies in a manger. He who wrapped the heavens in clouds is clothed with the purple of mockery. He who rained manna down on his people in the wilderness is fed on milk from his mother's breast. He who freed Adam in the Jordan receives buffetings. The bridegroom of the church summons the wise men. He was transfixed with nails, who is the bridegroom of the church. The Son of the Virgin accepts their gifts. He was pierced with a lance, who is the Son of the Virgin. We worship thy birth, O Christ. We worship thy passion, O Christ. Show us also thy holy theophany. Show us also thy glorious resurrection. And so I think you can easily see how these two hymns are joined, and it's a high moment. So if you have the opportunity to go to the royal hours, this is in the ninth hour, which should be towards the end, and it's just beautiful. At this point, the main chanters usually come to the center of the church, and for Holy Friday, they would have the giant cross there in the center of the church with the crucified Lord on it. But at Christmas, they come before the icon of the Nativity and sing this very beautiful hymn, which is in tone 6. Many of you know that's one of the best tones out there, just my opinion. But again, this goes back to some of the things I've said before I think that it's good to remember that Christmas is tied up with Pascha, And I was happy to hear Father Peter say the same thing last night, that the swaddling clothes in the manger mimic the shroud that the Lord is wrapped in his death, right? He comes to save us, right? And he saves us through dying. These things are all related. And so it puts that, helps us to remember that there is a serious side to Christmas. There's a lot of joy, right? And love and happiness, but there's also this realization that he comes for us. Okay, so I'm going to switch a little bit, unless you have any questions about the service itself. I wish I had other Christmas service books to show you from other jurisdictions, but I don't. If that's something you have, I would really love to know that so I could share that with others. So again, the OCA has this little one, and the digital the digital chant stand from the Greeks would be if you're in a a Greek speaking or English speaking parish. They have it both in English and in Greek. So I also wanted to go over our little families project called the Jesse tree. It came up, I think, on the last stream, and I actually have gotten down my Christmas decorations now so I can show you what it looks like. I don't think I did a very good job explaining this last time. I had a conversation with someone afterwards that there is an icon called the Tree of Jesse, but this is called the Jesse tree, and it started out as a Protestant activity, but as you'll see, it pairs really nicely with Advent, and so a lot of Orthodox people have taken this on. So I found this through an Orthodox Yahoo group many, many years ago. I think it was 2008, 2007, and let me just show you. Now, don't laugh at my ornaments. Most of these are handmade. Let's see if I can't really see them, can you? So what you do is you start with a blank Christmas tree, and every day you put on an ornament and you do a reading. And so all of the ornaments are pointing to Christ, and it basically begins with creation, and it goes all the way into the Lord's birth, and then it even has the 12 days of Christmas, so it takes you all the way to Theophany. And so you can see down at the bottom, I think you can see the little the bush that burnt but was not consumed, right? You can see the parting of the waters there. It looks like a blue butterfly. You can see the 10 Commandments. There's little baby Moses hanging there, the Ark of the Covenant, the throne of David. We made these as a family, so some of them are kind of hokey. Can you see the little flames down there? Anybody want to guess what that is? If you can see that. And I'm going to find these readings for you and give you the list of what to put on each day and the readings for next year. I think this is a really fantastic way because Christmas, like Pascha, we do a lot of reading for the Old Testament prophecies, and this is a really and typologies, and it's a really great way for children to see the connection. So this right here, let me just take them off. This was the three holy children, right? And so if you see, was the fiery flame. This is the fiery furnace. This is in the book of Daniel. The three holy children are thrown in, and there appears Nebuchadnezzar sees a fourth person who appears to be the Son of God. And of course, this is, sometimes it's depicted as an angel, but it's the Lord coming down and saving them, right? And so this is an image of Christ. We have the rainbow for its original meaning, of course, a sign that the Lord would never flood the earth again. We have Joseph's coat of many colors, right? Anybody want to guess what the sandal is? You can see this little sandal here. This was for John the Baptist, right? One crying in the wilderness, the parting of the Red Sea. Okay. So it's important that flood could be fired though. True. It's important that we remember that these little kids, they love stories, right? The Old Testament stories are really wonderful for them. But to do something with their hands where they make something or they draw a picture, it really solidifies the story for them. And when you do this year after year, right, then they actually remember these things. And so we spent a couple of years making these ornaments. We It was 52 ornaments. We didn't make them all at once, but we just took our time, and some of them are kinda hokey because they were made by kids, and, but it became a really dear thing that my kids loved, and so while this is a kind of a Protestant idea, again, we have an icon called the Tree of Jesse, um, and we're studying all these prophecies and the ancestors of our Lord, so this is very, very much in line with Orthodoxy. So any questions about that? I'm going to, again, work on finding the original readings I was given. I have the list, but, if that's something you're interested in, let me know. It's a great tradition. Yeah, it's everyone really enjoyed it in our family. So one last thing about Christmas I forgot to mention. Yeah, when again, talk to your priest and make sure you understand when the services are because you do need to schedule when you're opening your gifts and all. Some kids don't like to wait until after liturgy. Sometimes they want to do it Christmas Eve night. So just think through these things, beforehand. So I was talking with two of my friends yesterday, two Orthodox ladies, married ladies, and we were talking about Christmas gifts for spouses. So I'm curious as to what you guys are getting your spouse for Christmas. I don't think we have couples in the chat, so we won't tell your spouse what you're getting them. But we had this discussion around, does your spouse want something practical? Do they want something beautiful? Do they just tell you what to buy them? Are you in that stage of your marriage where they send you the Amazon link and they say, "Here, this is what I want," and then you just get it? Um, this was really interesting because I was saying to my friends, I really just want something beautiful and kinda girly, and, sometimes I get tools, and I'm not always thrilled about that because, to me, giving a gift says that you, uh, know the person. And I know I'm not right here, guys, I'm just exposing myself here. But giving a gift to someone shows the degree to which you know them and you understand them. It's kind of a deep thing for me, right? Wow, your wife told you she doesn't want anything. Yeah, I don't know. Um, I've never heard that one before. But some people don't care about gifts, right? Some people do. But um, give a spouse a Jim Bob print. There you go. But it's interesting because some people really do just either don't care what they get or other people like me maybe attach too much meaning to getting the gift, right? Like if I get a tool, if I get a vacuum or something, it's like, yes, this is a very practical thing and I appreciate it. But, it kind of makes me wonder like, do you get me at all? Like I would love a Russian scarf that was like yellow and blue and lots of flowers. And so my friend was telling me that she was the total opposite. So there's no right way to be. Just kind of a thought experiment here for the people with spouses or children or anybody in your life. But she said she had told her husband she wanted a certain tool, kitchen tool. I think it was like a mixer or something. So the husband was at work and standing around uh, the water cooler talking, and he told the guys at work, "Yeah, I'm getting her this mixer." And they all kind of froze and looked at her and looked at him and said, "Oh, no. No, no. You can't get her that. That's gonna be disastrous. Here's what you do. You go to the mall and you buy the most expensive, ugly purse you can find, and she'll love it, and that's, what you bring home to her." Uh, and of course, we found this hilarious because our friend is a homesteader, and we knew instantly that's obviously bad advice for her. So it's just interesting to kinda think about, whether or not your spouse want something practical or do they just want a token of love, right? Is this making sense, guys? I never know if I'm making sense to you guys, but I'm glad you're kidding Rip. Oh, she already saw this is the problem with Amazon. Yeah, if you buy something from Amazon, your spouse can easily see that. That's my issue. But I think if you're newlyweds out there, if you haven't been married very long, maybe just think about, what is the person really like? And I just, especially now that I have only boys at home, I appreciate something a little more girly than I did maybe when I was younger. Nala says, "My brother wrapped a roll of toilet paper and addressed it to me from Santa and put it under the tree. That devastated me. I was so young. He was the meanest big brother ever." Oh, poor Mela. Um, that would be heartbreaking if you're a little kid. I think my kids did that to each other one year, or maybe they were trying to hide the real gifts from the pretend gifts, so I think they wrapped up cans of beans for each other or something. But, anyway, I guess this is all about knowing your spouse, you know? Are you in the part of the marriage where, um, maybe gifts show that you understand each other, or you just, later on where it's like, "Yeah, we love each other, we already know that, so here's some sweatpants for you." We're not quite to the sweatpants, we're somewhere in the middle. Got a toilet cleaner for my mom too, what a punk. Yeah, sounds like it, Mela. Okay, so last thing I wanted to go over, um, I kinda started off talking about my channel and what made me start this, but I wanted to share with you guys, where I'm headed. But first I wanted to kinda give a shout out and a thank you to everybody that's helped me along the way. This was, I was driven to do this, but once I started, I was way in over my head. For those of you that know, um, I don't get technology at all. I didn't have a smartphone until recently. When I save things on the computer, I don't know where they go, and this my husband thinks is hilarious, right? If they're not on the desktop, I don't know where they are. So I'm really in over my head with this project. So it took me many months to figure out how to do, video recording, audio recording, audio editing, the thumbnails, YouTube, Spotify, which I've dropped the ball on. It was such a huge learning curve on top of being very shy and nervous. So, I'm really grateful for the people that helped me out. First of all, Kyle of OrthoCast had me on, so that was really great. That helped me to start to speak, and then back in June, I met Mano through an SOS radio on a Sunday night, and I remember the first time I clicked on that I'd kind of gone and subscribed to a bunch of different Orthodox YouTube channels, trying to figure out who was who and what this crazy orthosphere was. And when I, clicked on SOS Radio that Sunday night, he was literally just saying, "And if you're starting a channel and you need help, reach out to us." And I thought, "Wow, well, that's providential." And so I did. I listened for a little while. I just have no idea what I'm looking at here. It was like the creepy clown with punk rock and then some jibber jabbers, and it was great, right? Really great people in the chats, and, but I just wanna say that, what Mano and Manny did over there was to help me, behind the scenes, they encouraged me to go to video. If I had a question, they would help me with that. They had me on their show and, encouraged me, said, "Yeah, you're doing fine, keep doing it." Like, I got used to doing the live streams on that show right before I started my own over here. And I wanna say this to say thank you, but I also wanna say that we need more of this in the Orthodox world. We're not, um we shouldn't have a stance of competing with each other, right? But of lifting each other up and helping each other. And there's things that I'm good at and can offer, but that's different from what they can offer, right? And so what they had to offer was so much moral support, but also production support. And sorry, I'm not watching the chat, so let me know if there's something I should look for or respond to. But we need more of this, and I hope in the next year. I've been reaching out to every Orthodox woman I see online who has a channel, trying to encourage her and trying to, um, you know, say, "Keep going," right? A lot of women content creators in the Orthodox space quit after 2 years, and I can understand why, because it's a pretty difficult space, right? And if you're doing this alone, if you don't have the technical skills or you're nervous or, whatever it is, and you don't have people to support you, then I understand why you would quit. I would have by now if I hadn't have run into all of you in the chats, and there's Pike. We're constantly meeting new people, so how you doing, Pike? And, yeah, they're all weirdos, Moldy, but they're all just really wonderful weirdos, and I think that's my tribe, I get that. So, we're all weird together in our own special little way. Um, but really, I've been trying to find women. I have some ideas for different channels for Orthodox women that I think don't exist that should exist. So if that's something any of you ladies out there listening that you want to do, I'll help you. Just reach out to me, probably on Instagram, or my emails on the About page, which I know a lot of people have a hard time finding, but it is there. But I have, like I said, several ideas for different channels for Orthodox women, for Orthodox family. I can only do so much. As a 47-year-old lady, I'm not 25 and doing this. I don't know what it's like to have young children right now. And we need those younger women, I think, to step up and to encourage those women who hopefully will be joining the church in mass, as we've seen a wave of male converts. I hope to see that for female converts. And we need the content um, in place to support them. And I don't think we have that right now. So I'm willing to help you in whatever way you can because others helped me. So, standing invitation to any of you ladies out there to contact me and let's talk about it. And I am actually looking for a few women to just bounce ideas off of and to help with my own production, right? Because, I love all of the SOS people out there, but it's mainly guys. And you guys are great. But, this is supposed to be for women from a woman's perspective. So, we need other women to step up and to share their perspective. It's different than the guys, and that's okay. And all right, take care, Moldy. There's a place for that. And I think there's women out there who are really lonely being at home, as I've said before, especially if you have young children, can be extremely isolating. And so these kinds of channels would really be a help to the young ladies out there who are, trying to do the right thing by staying home with their children or living a more simple life, living more Orthodox life, slowly leaning into that. So I hope that makes sense. If you're out there, let me know. I'd love to work with you. So again, thank you to Manny, Mano, and the whole SOS crew. You guys really are fantastic. I love that you jump in my chats. It's almost exclusively you guys here, honestly. And the message that I've gotten have been incredibly encouraging and helpful. I've loved getting to know each of you, over the last 6 months. I want to thank all those people that came on my show, especially when the production was super bad and I had the volume all wonky and the video was terrible. But, the conversation I thought was great and great guests. So I appreciate them. It's like John Heers and Jamie Hanshaw. There's been some big names, and I was really grateful that they came on such a puny little channel. And lastly, I want to thank all of the people who have reached out to me privately. There have been women that I've actually developed friendships with, and I think you know who you are. And I really love that. It was very unexpected for me. I never expected to make online friends through this endeavor, but I have, and I'm really grateful for your insight and your encouragement and help that you've given me. Lastly, about that, I'd like to say if you have feedback for me, if you're familiar with my content, let me know. I'd love to hear that. It can be critical, it can be new ideas, whatever you want to offer back. I'd really appreciate that. And then finally, I want to let you know some things that I think will be happening next year that I'm working on, that I'm moving towards. Um, More saints, more lives of the saints, more writings of the saints. For me, that's really the foundational thing that I offer to all of you. It's not so much what I have, but here's what the church has to offer you. That's the highest thing that I offer. And again, I curate those for women and families. There's usually some little tidbit in there that I feel like is helpful for women and families. We'll do more interviews. I think January, to give you a little bit of a preview, we're going to have our very own Melaforta. We sat down for a conversation about a month ago, and I decided to save it until the new year. So I think the whole of January will be on men and women, the gender wars, trad wives, Orthodox trad wives episode is coming out. It should be a really great month, I think, of content. Might be on a little bit on the spicy side for some people, but I wanted to say that until the new year. We'll be continuing to do these live streams as long as they're helpful and people show up. We do these that are kind of topical, and we also have started doing the Q&As again for women, typically very basic Q&As. And lastly, the new thing I'm going to be starting, maybe I might record today. I might try to squeeze one in before Christmas. I really wish I'd done this earlier in the month to give you some ideas for Christmas gifts, but I'm going to start doing um, book reviews of Orthodox children's books. There are some fantastic Orthodox children's books out there. And I think especially if you're new to the faith, sometimes a children's book is actually kind of appropriate and you're going to learn a lot. There's some very high quality books that we didn't have 20 years ago, where they tell the story, for older children, but they're so well told, adults can easily both enjoy them and learn a lot about the church. The other thing I want to say about the books is that over the last 20 years, and I believe I have a whole talk on this called "The Normalization of Evil in Children's Literature," which is kind of a Debbie Downer of a title, isn't it? But it's probably one of the things I'm most proud of on my channel. Actually, I think that the information there is really helpful for people. There's been a change in children's publishing over the last 20 years, well, last 40 or 60, but really in the last 20 years since I've had kids. Huge, huge change in literature. Hey, Brody, good morning. Um, it is now so much harder to find good books for your children. Everything has an agenda. A lot of the classics are not available. If they are available, they are, what's the word? They are often either abridged, retold, or have you guys heard of remixed classics? One of the sad things that happened over the summer that I never shared was that I did a very long interview, about 2 hours, with an Orthodox librarian. It was a really fantastic video, but unfortunately, I had a technical difficulty that, on my side, not on her side, that made it impossible for me to post that video, unfortunately. And I hope to try again with her one day. But one of the things she shared as a librarian was that they are remixing, quote unquote, remixing these stories, and they will change characters or setting or whatever to incorporate an agenda. So you might have Pride and Prejudice, but now it's a different setting for agenda purposes, let's say. And so you have to be incredibly careful. And the other thing I've noticed is that great Orthodox books go out of print. Yes, woke remixing, Mela, that's a thing. So Orthodox books go out of print and they don't always come back into print. So as the libraries have become less safe for your kids to be in, and I can talk about that for an hour, it's more and more important that you build your home library. Now, if you're older like me, I was thinking, why do I need to buy these books? But I realized that, God willing, I'll have grandchildren one day, and I want these books now because I don't know if they're going to be available in the future. Things go out of print. I have a lot of great books that are out of print, Orthodox books that you just can't get anymore. So I think even if you don't yet have children or if your children are infants, it's never too early or too late to start a home library. It's incredibly important. And again, a lot of these books are helpful even for adults. I'll confess to you that the first time I was able to find the story of St. Mark of Ephesus was in New Rome Press's Friends of Christ series, a really wonderful, beautiful series. But it told the story so well, it was still on an adult level. Okay, so I'm not just talking about little board books. I'm talking about books through the teenage years, through the middle school years. There's incredible books being made all the time now. And I would suggest to you that even above toys or other things, like books to me are the number one gift. Books that develop the soul, that point a child to Christ. Maybe I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent here. If you wait until your child is a teenager to introduce them to these topics, to introduce them to the saints or faith or the, let's say, the miraculous side, right? These that miracles happen in the church, right? If you wait until they're older, they don't accept it in the same way. But when you teach a child that the saints are real, miracles happen all the time. They're still happening, right? Um, hey, good morning, OBG. Nice to see you. Talking about children's books right now, but if you can instill that faith in a young child, then once they're older and they start to maybe have some doubts or they start to hear different things from the world, they already have that bank, let's say, of stories of faith, right? They can say, um, "Well, no, that's not true because I know of this story," right? So you want that already there before they start bumping up against the world. I hope that makes sense. St. Paisios talks about this a little bit. You might remember when he was a child, he had deep faith. He never doubted God. But I think he was probably middle school age, and one of the older boys who had been off to school came back and told him, "Oh, I've learned in school that science tells us that we are products of evolution. So God didn't make everything, right? It was made by this natural process, and you're just silly if you believe that Jesus was God, but that really we are." Um, just evolved from the apes, right? And St. Paisios was devastated because of this. It really devastated him. You should go back and find this if you haven't read it before, because he was so simple-minded. He of course believed the boy, but all he did was he he knew enough about the Lord that he turned it and he had one good thought and he said, um, "I don't know. Maybe this boy is right, but I still love Christ so much because he gave his life for me and he was the most wonderful person that ever lived, that I'm still going to dedicate my life to him." And in saying that and having that good thought, right, that was really a product of his soul, right, and of the many lives of the saints that he had read, right, that had developed his soul. Then all of a sudden, the Lord appears to him from the icon in the church, and he has this experience of Christ, and he knows, in the deepest way possible in that moment that Christ is truly God. And so our children will bump up against, these ideas in the world at some point, whether they're in middle school, high school, college, right? It's going to happen. And you want them to have that bank of holy stories, right? Holy people, books about virtue. If you wait too long, then they've already been told differently by the world. This is not a new problem. This is kind of the way the world has always been, but I think we have to be even more careful now. So that's my big plug for why you should have a home library. First and foremost, Orthodox books. Um, Next, I would say like some really good history books, some encyclopedias. I would buy an encyclopedia set. I would buy maybe a 2015. If you go from like maybe 17 or 18 forward, they're going to get really woke. But if you go back to 2015, you're going to get a pretty good set, still with the great pictures and fairly updated. I think they're only like $300, but just having that for your child to read about things. Again, we want to encourage children to be reading instead of being on devices. It's an incredible resource for your family that will last decades. I think I saw a question here. I'm reading the little set of books published by, I forgot, to my grandson when I get him like later today. Great. And what books would you like to see more of for Orthodox children? That's a hard question, Alexander, because there were maybe 10 books when my children were little. And now New Rome Press alone probably has 20, if not more. That's a really difficult book. If I could pick a book, um, I would actually have it be the history of different Orthodox countries. I think we need a children's history of Greece, a children's history of Russia, of Serbia, right? Because you can incorporate world history, but also the saints and the great debates and the great development of thought through these Orthodox countries, which is utterly lacking in even in the good history books that maybe a Christian homeschooler would run up against, maybe from Usborne. They're still severely lacking. For instance, if you look at the Usborne, I think it's a picture history of ancient Greece. You get a 2-page spread of the ancient gods. You get, by far, most of it is about, um, pagan pagan Greece. And then in the end, you get, I think, 2 paragraphs on the Byzantine Empire, and then you get like a page on Islam. So, it's totally wonky. It certainly, what can you say about Byzantine history, the Christian history of the church in 2 little paragraphs from an entire book? So that's what I would love to see if I had a choice, if I could convince somebody out there to write these books. That's what we need. Which, by the way, would, for a lot of us converts, I don't know the history of Serbia, right? I don't know the history of Russia. I wish I did. I know kind of bits and pieces, probably a little bit more familiar with the Greek history. But again, we don't have anything because of our own poor education in America, right? None of us know this stuff as Americans. So I think this would be an incredibly useful series. So if you're out there, guys, get busy on that, please. Rip says, I found a set of junior classics from 1918, I think, or 1915. I want to start reading them to my daughter. Yeah, there's a really nice company called Lamplighter Books, and they reprint books that are in the public domain, old children's books, and they do them in really beautiful covers, and they're meant to be heirloom, library books. The only caveat I would say about that is that you do need to be careful because some of these books are going to have a Protestant bent. Sometimes it's really difficult um, to see it, but they might say like a book about Russia. Maybe you have a family that meets the Russians. They might make some comments about they're idolaters or something like that. So that's the only thing I would warn you about. So my other great project I wish we could do would be which I talked to the librarian about over the summer, which would be to have a website for um, Orthodox parents to review children's books. Somewhat like Common Sense Media, if you're familiar with them. They used to be a really great website. They've gone woke, but you can still see what's in a book or a movie. So you can go to that website. What I like about it is that it tells you exactly what's in the book. So if it says it has bad language, it'll actually show you the cuss words that are in it. If it has drug use, anything about sexuality, it's explicit about what exactly is in the book, which I think is great because different people do have different standards, right? So there's a lot that we could agree on as Orthodox parents that we don't want our kids to have. Hopefully we agree on the big stuff. But because of where you're from and your background, you're going to have differences in opinion with the details. So I think a website like that, can you imagine how helpful that would be? I've told my friends they can let me know, and I'll give them my opinion about books if they have it. But honestly, I look at the reviews on Amazon to try to figure out what's actually in the book if it's a book I'm unfamiliar with. But I couldn't keep up with my kids reading. They were reading so much. I had 4 kids that were reading. You just can't keep up with their reading once they get to a certain age. Okay, let's see if I can catch up with you guys. New Rome Press is amazing. I'm going to be reviewing 2 of their new books. Maybe I'll try to make that video today for you guys and post it before Christmas. But I don't think I have them in front of me, but they have a new little book on humility, which is delightful. And the other one was on Fools for Christ. So these are brand new, and I highly recommend them. But I'll go into detail later on today about that. We need a version of the Strickland's books for kids. Yes, I know Father John Strickland. Actually, I knew him as a catechumen years ago. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. I have this book series too. It is more of a history, obviously for adults for sure, high school and adult, but you kind of have to already know the things that he's referencing. So if you don't already know history, I think that series is going to be difficult for you. Otherwise, it's a great It's a great series. Um, yeah, as Americans, we hardly know our own history, let alone, um, world history, right? Even the best books out there. I think I mentioned to you guys Story of the World, a series for Christian homeschoolers, right? They call St. Nicholas the Turkish Christian. Yikes on that one. And they're still leaving out tons and tons of things that for Orthodox are extremely important. So that's the struggle. Hey, Abigail, nice to see you. Abigail has a wonderful channel. If you guys are not familiar with it, Orthodox Hymns. She reads prayers and chants hymns, and they are just delightful. You should definitely go over and follow Abigail. Hey, Rip, I will keep you in mind. If you are interested in becoming a book reviewer, let's do this. Let's make this happen. But again, I'm not tech savvy, but if someone knows how to build the tech for that, I think that would be an amazing resource for Orthodox parents. Yeah, thanks, Brody, for going over there. Um, yeah, so this book about the Fools for Christ for children, it says it's the third volume in the series, the one that just came out from New Rome. I'm not familiar with volume 1 and 2, but I get the feeling that like volume 1 must be about like a different type of saint. Um, and then so the third is for Fools for Christ, but it is very well done. I think it would be a great addition to, your family or your church. Here's another idea. If you don't have the funds to do this, I know that when we were a young family, money was really tight and, a $20 children's book was difficult, right? Um, talk to your parish. Your parish should have a children's library. Parishes often have adult libraries, but I think we forget about the kids. So if you can't do this individually, if one family, if each family in the parish, let's say, offered one children's book to the parish children's library, think of what a wonderful library you could have, and then all the children in the parish could have access to that. So again, this kind of goes back to thinking of how can we support each other? How can we build community, right? If we try to do these things on our own, you're going to burn out and get frustrated, right? But if we work together, if we say, I have this idea, how can we make it happen, right? Then you can benefit the church, more people in the church. Yeah, Brody, I have ideas and no time or skills to make them happen. So I'll share with you guys an idea about a clothing company for Orthodox women, inspired by Orthodox uh, countries, like the clothing of different Orthodox countries throughout the centuries, but modernized a little bit so you don't look like you're a LARPer out there at the park. But I have a lot of ideas. I even have a name for this one: Venerable Clothing for Mothers, Maidens, and Matriarchs. But I'm just learning to sew. So again, this is why we need women to gather and to think about what do we need as the community of Orthodox women. There's lots we could be doing, right? And and we just need to kind of get on that together. Yes, Manny is great with tech, but as you know, they're building something already right now. So I've been holding off on these. Oh, take care, Mala. We're almost done anyway. Thank you for being here as always. And so as Board No More gets up and running, you know, they can only do so much, right? They have their hands full with their wonderful Texas project. That's why we really need more hands in this space helping out. So that's my call to all of you. So let me just wrap up here and say that this is the last live stream until January. I'm not sure when I will start. My son is coming out to visit from Texas. So I don't think I'll start until probably the third week of January, but I'll let you know. But I am hoping to do the Orthodox book reviews to start that today. And also, I'm toying with the idea of doing 12 videos for the 12 days of Christmas. These would just be readings. These would not be, content that I have to think about and organize myself, but the different readings, because as we celebrate the Nativity on the 25th, the celebration will go all the way until January 6th with Theophany. And it's important that you understand that there are things we celebrate each day, whether that's the 14,000 child martyrs from um, from King Herod or Saint Stephen the First martyr. Right? There's a lot of important saints and homilies that you could be that I think would be encouraging for you. So I hope it's a little bit it's a little bit of a lot for me to do 12 videos, but I'm going to give it a shot. Maybe I'll only get 6 done, but that's my hope, is to give you something to listen to while I'm taking a break. And then we'll come back in January with lots of content about men and women. And yeah. So, and Brody, there is already a venerable clothing line out there. So, it's nothing like what I'm talking about, but I think someone does already have that clothing line name, just so you know. But you heard it here first, folks. Like, let's make these things happen. I'm sure other women out there have really great ideas or things that they need, but we just need to start. We need to have a way where the women can get together and talk about these things and develop ideas, support each other. Um, it would make a lot of these things actually come to fruition. So all for the glory of God. Okay, guys. Well, God bless you all. I hope you have a wonderful nativity, a blessed new year. Thanks for being here as always. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for putting up with my rather emotional live streams lately and hanging through everything. All the kind comments. Um, yeah, Pike, if you need a baptismal robe, I know the sisters over near Father Turbo's church make them. I know you can reach out to almost any convent of sisters and they make them. So um, you might find something a little closer. But keep in touch, everyone. Blessed nativity to you all. God bless you and have a great day.